What's more likely after a Game 1 Boston Bruins victory, a series win for the Black and Gold, or a Florida Panthers comeback?
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to a game day episode of Locked On Boston Bruins. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Wednesday, May 8th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine, free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Bessie making an appearance here on the podcast. That's usually good vibes for the Boston Bruins. And they're getting ready for Game 2 tonight against the Florida Panthers. On today's show, we're going to discuss what's more likely. It's a What's More Likely Wednesday. A Bruins series win, or Panthers erase that 1-0 series deficit and come back and advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. Before we get into all that, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins. You can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren, lifelong Bruins fan, hosting this podcast for the past 5 years. Before that, I was a full-time hockey news editor at The Score. And lifelong Bruins fan, been covering this team for various outlets for about 20 years. And just seeing here that on the iTunes charts this morning, Locked On Boston Bruins is number 14 in the hockey category in America, which is fantastic. Thank you so much for the continuing support. And please do subscribe if you have not already. Game 2, Bruins, Panthers tonight in Florida, 7:30 start. Thankfully, a bit earlier than the 8 p.m. Less time to be anxious about it. Let's get right into Game 2. And we're talking what's more likely here. And the Bruins, it's more likely that they're going to win this series just based on the odds. Look at Money Puck this morning, and they have the Bruins, after winning Game 1, as 64.7% favorites to win this series. Which is fantastic. Panthers at 35.3. That's the advantage of winning Game 1. Even more meaningful because they won on the road. They stole that road game. They now have to win 3 more games to advance, and they have at least 3 to be played on home ice, which is great. And the Bruins, I mean, nobody expected them to beat the Panthers. Everybody thought it was going to be a quick series. People thought, yeah, Panthers in 5 maybe. Whoever won between Toronto and Boston was going to get absolutely rolled over. Right now, the numbers favor the Bruins after that Game 1 win over the Panthers. And a huge reason for that is Jeremy Swayman. Jim Montgomery did admit on Tuesday that they considered going to Linus Ullmark for Game 1 on Monday night, but they ultimately decided that Swayman is playing too well to make a change. They talked about it as a staff because of the emotional highs of Game 7 against Toronto and the travel. They contemplated going with Ullmark because they have so much confidence in him too. But when a guy's playing this well, it's like, don't outsmart yourself. Both goalies are staying in top shape, and keeping Linus sharp with practice and shooting is imperative, because there could be a time where they're called upon, or he's called upon to step in if Swayman starts to struggle a bit. Swayman, though, is a tremendous athlete. Montgomery said, a little bit of a freak of an athlete. They don't worry about him breaking down, but it's also the mental toll, physical toll. Right now, Swayman is just flying on all levels, and You look at what he did against Toronto, you look at the performance in game 1, and it's hard to imagine him being beaten 4 times over the course of the next 6 games. Right now, Swayman continues to lead all active goalies in the playoffs with a save percentage of .955. That's through 7 appearances. The only guy who's close, who is still playing, is Igor Shesterkin, who had a fantastic game last night in a win for the Rangers over the Hurricanes. They're now up 2-0 in that series. He's at .929. Jeremy Swayman has just been unreal so far. And another reason why I think it's more likely that the Bruins are going to win, they just have this kind of, I don't know, it's so weird because when they were tied with the Leafs after those 2 losses in a row, the vibes weren't great. My faith in this team was pretty low, and I can admit that I wasn't expecting them to pull off that game 7, especially after they went down in that game. But here we are, a few days later. This team, because they were able to break through against Toronto, because of that confidence and coming out against the Panthers and how that game 1 was won with these depth players stepping up, there is this renewed belief, this renewed team of destiny vibe that they have. They're deep, they're confident, they have some swagger now. Mason Lohrei, Justin Brazeau are the talk of the town at the moment and looking to prove something. Mason Lohrei, all the confidence in the world, poised with the puck, willingness to hang on to it to find a better play is amazing. Jim Montgomery said the goal he scored, he hit the post before that, gives confidence to the team. He has an ability to come up in big moments, and that allows other guys to focus on their games as well. Charlie McAvoy said the sky's the limit for him. Justin Brazeau made some great plays in game 7, scored that goal in game 1. And that's just a small sample size of the guys who are stepping up. There's also another level that some of these guys can hit as well. David Pastrnak, only 6 points through 8 games. Pavel Zacha, Charlie Coyle, yet to find the back of the net. The way the Bruins have won so far, with some depth scoring stepping up, Trent Frederick, Jake DeBrusk continuing to, be second on the team in goals scored with 3. Morgan Geekie as well. Actually, Jake DeBrusk leads the team after that empty netter. If some of these other guys start to produce as well, it'll just make the Bruins that much more dangerous and that much better. So I think it's likely that the Bruins are going to hold on against the Florida Panthers and advance to the Eastern Conference Final. Money Puck has them at a 64.7% chance of doing so. That would increase dramatically with another road win tonight in game 2. Why do I say that again? Well, Jeremy Swayman. The odds are with them because of that game 1 win. The depth guys that are stepping up, Lohrei, Brazeau. Also, they're relatively healthy. Derek Forbort came back for game 1 and played pretty well, actually. And they just have this vibe like the team of destiny at the moment. They're underdogs as well. All the expectations are on the Panthers right now. No expectations on the Bruins, so they can be a bit more freewheeling, living in the moment, embrace that underdog moniker, and just keep going. I think it's more likely that the Bruins will win this round. But there's also an argument to be made for the Florida Panthers, and we'll discuss why it's more likely that Florida will win this series coming up as the podcast continues. Game Time is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting Celtics playoff tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to tip-off. And with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. I love the views from your seat. You know exactly what to expect when you arrive at the arena. And the lowest price guarantee means that Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find a better price in the same section and row. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. And you can take all the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNHL, code to redeem on the Game Time app. Download Game Time, last minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed. There's no I in team, but there is one in Indeed, and that's the hiring platform you need to build your team. If you're hiring, you simply need Indeed. It's the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for the candidates with the right skills, Indeed's a powerful hiring platform that can help you do it all. They streamline hiring with powerful tools that match candidates perfectly to your needs. And with Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match their job descriptions the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed data in the US. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit, $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/lockedon. The offer is good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit at Indeed.com/lockedon. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. But if you need to hire, you need Indeed. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine. Free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. While you're on YouTube, check out Locked On Sports Today. 24/7 news, analysis, opinions from all your favorite Locked On hosts. Free on the Locked On Sports Today YouTube channel, streaming 24/7, and the Amazon Fire TV channels app. All right, why is it more likely that the Florida Panthers will win this series? Well, they were the first place team in the Atlantic Division for a reason. This is a very, very good Florida Panthers team, and they have weapons that can beat you on any given night, including Sam Bennett, who was knocked out of the first round series against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Don't forget, they got rid of Tampa in 5 games, which is pretty impressive, even though Tampa is not the team they once were. And they have all-world talent in Matthew Tkachuk, who's got 10 points through 6 games. Carter Verhaeghe with 5 goals in 6 games. If the game goes to overtime, he is always dangerous, as we know. Alexander Barkov. Sam Reinhart had 50-something goals in the regular season. He's only got 3 through 6 games. So you know he could break out at any given moment. 57 goals this season for the Florida Panthers. This is a dangerous team, not to be taken lightly. There was perhaps a bit of rust that they were dealing with in game 1 as a result of having been off for several days heading into the series against the Bruins after dispatching of Tampa early, which the Bruins were not able to do against Toronto. And of course, they have the belief that no matter what the series is at, they are able to come back. Because we all know what happened last year. The Bruins were up 3-1. Brad Marchand had the series on a stick late in game 5. Could have ended it on a breakaway. He did not. Went to overtime. Florida won game 7. They went on to the Stanley Cup final. So not only did they just squeak by the Bruins, but they went on and won the Eastern Conference. This is a very good team. Sergei Bobrovsky is a Vezina Trophy finalist. Alexander Barkov is a Selke Trophy finalist. Paul Maurice is a outstanding head coach, and you could argue that he outcoached Jim Montgomery in last year's series, and that's one of the big differences. He wasn't unwilling to make a change in net, going from Alex Lyon to Sergei Bobrovsky. He made some lineup changes. He made some adjustments, and the Panthers were better off for it. Make no mistake, this is a very good team. And the Florida Panthers, despite being down 1-0, still have an opportunity to hold court on home ice tonight, tie things up, heading back to Boston, and a very good chance of making it back to the Eastern Conference Finals. In fact, right now, if you look at who has the best chances of winning this series in 7 games, Money Puck has the Panthers at an 18% chance of that happening. The Bruins have a better chance of closing it out probably in game 6, 21.7% chance of that happening. But we all know that no matter what the odds are, it's not over until you win that 4th game. It was the same case against Toronto. They were up 3-1, got to overtime in game 7, just a complete coin flip there. And thankfully, the Bruins were able to pull it off. The same was not the case last year. They lost game 5 in overtime, couldn't finish it in game 6, lost game 7 in overtime despite being up in that game. So it's not over until it's over, and the Florida Panthers certainly have the belief that they can come back against this team. I don't believe for a second that the Florida Panthers are rattled by any stretch of the imagination after losing game 1. Paul Maurice is a very confident head coach, and you got to believe that they will be cleaning up some of the lapses that they had in game 1. Kyle Okposo said they had a few too many breakdowns, and the Bruins capitalized on them. Matthew Tkachuk said perhaps they took their foot off the gas, but they made some mistakes and weren't as hard on pucks as they needed to be. The Bruins played well. They're going to come out in game 2, ready to go, look at it all over, figure out how they can be better. Alexander Barkov said, obviously, the Bruins are a good team. They're going to push back, and that's what they did right after Florida's first goal. That was scored by Matthew Tkachuk. Only goal. The Bruins pushed back. They got a couple goals, and then when Florida had the chance to push back in the third, they were kept at bay. Florida did lead the game in shot attempts, 86-53. They had a 39-29 shot advantage. Scoring chances were 41-23. But they only had 9 high danger shots on goal because Boston blocked 26 and made it a bit easier for Jeremy Swayman. Paul Maurice said it's a never-ending learning process for you to continue to kind of cement the things you need to do. He didn't care for their game. He thinks they can fix a big chunk of the things they did wrong, and you can be sure that they're going to come out ready to tie the series tonight. And you look at how well Bobrovsky's played this year, the firepower that they have, Sam Bennett coming back, Sam Reinhart likely to turn it on at some point. They're a different team with Matthew Tkachuk there than they were before that trade. He brings that dog to the cats, and you can be sure they'll be ready for tonight. And, you know, it's entirely likely that they will come back in this series just because they're a better team in some people's eyes. Will the Panthers win this series? Who knows? But that's my argument for why it's more likely the Bruins will win, why it's more likely the Panthers will win. They're a better team. They have the belief that they can come back no matter what. They have more firepower than the Bruins offensively and are likely to advance once again to the Eastern Conference Finals. But we'll have a better idea certainly tonight because it is game 2 between the Bruins and the Florida Panthers, and it is a game we will preview here as the podcast continues. Let's pause a bit here and discuss Monopoly Go. Oh man, we love Monopoly Go here at the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. It's such a nice distraction from the Stanley Cup playoff anxiety, and it's just so fun because it's such a great take on the classic board game that I used to play in my basement all the time with my friends. Right now, you can team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get, like unique stickers you can trade with friends, cool new playing pieces, hilarious emojis you can use to taunt your friends. It feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or robot pachinko machines. Download it now, free on Google Play or the App Store. Always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench, download it free today. Game on with Monopoly Go. Bruins Panthers game 3 tonight, friends, and you can be sure that Jeremy Swayman will be back in net for the Boston Bruins. 5-2 so far this playoff season, a 142 goals against average, a 955 save percentage, and as good as Sergei Bobrovsky has been so far this season, he earned a Vezina Trophy nomination. He hasn't been that great in the playoffs. An 890 save percentage, allowing 3 goals per game. That's where Florida's firepower comes into play. This team is scoring 3.5 goals per game in the playoffs. Most of that coming at the expense of the Tampa Bay Lightning, of course. They're allowing 3.17 goals per game, which ranks 11th among the 16 teams that start in the playoffs. The Bruins allowing only 1.63 goals per game, which is the lowest among all playoff teams. And you can be sure that their team defense will be firing on all cylinders again tonight. A big part of that is the penalty kill. They rank second, 95.8 success rate. Yes, they're struggling in the dots. We'll see if Patrick Brown is back in the lineup tonight. He had been brought in to maybe help in the faceoff circle. You could argue that wasn't really a positive addition. I'd like to see Jesper Boqvist get back in there. Montgomery said he was good, fits their identity of being physical and being hard, and he did his job. Still, the bigger addition was Derek Forbort, who looked confident, was really moving well. He had an injury that was bothering him all season long, and he looked pretty good. He had multiple surgeries that sidelined him for about 2 months. But it was a pleasant surprise, Jim Montgomery said. Really happy for him because he's worked really hard to get back to where the spoke to be and help the Bruins in a playoff run. And I'm excited to see him coming back and continuing to help. The penalty kill was 3 for 3 in game 1. And again, that timeout that Jim Montgomery called was such a turning point. Brandon Carlo said Montgomery did a fantastic job recognizing how the momentum was going. And again, the Panthers are a great team, Carlo said. They're going to have pushes offensively, defensively. They're going to make plays. At the right time, Montgomery made that timeout, told the Bruins to stay composed, calm down a little bit, and that was huge for the Bruins. Montgomery, Carlo said, quote, believes in us a lot, and at times it's just about hearing it and then believing in ourselves and going out there and doing it. Calling a timeout there was the right call for sure. So what we're looking for here is maybe some success on the power play. The Bruins did not score on the power play in game 1. They rank 4th among all playoff teams with a 31.6% success rate. If they're going to steal this game, they need some power play success. They also need to stay out of the box. No more too many men penalties, please. Keep that penalty kill ratio up by limiting the opposition's opportunities. We'd like to get that face-off percentage up. We would like to see Charlie Coyle and Pavel Zacha find the back of the net. Pavel Zacha, I believe, still looking for his first career playoff goal. He has looked pretty good, but again, we'd love to see him find the back of the net in the playoffs. 20 games now, 15 with the Bruins, 10 points in those 15 games, but no goals to speak of. I'd love to see him get on the board tonight. Pavel Zacha, I'm looking at you as an X factor in tonight's game. Jeremy Swayman will get the start. If there's any big lineup changes, be sure to be subscribed to the Locked On Bruins Instagram and YouTube page, because I'll post a reel there if there's anything major to discuss. But I'm looking at Pavel Zacha as being an X factor tonight. I'm looking at the Bruins power play to come through to help them steal this game 2 and head back to Boston with a 2-0 series lead. How fantastic would that be? 7:30 p.m. It's on ESPN in the States, Sportsnet CBC up here in Canada. And yeah, go Bees. The vibes are very high. And as much as I make an argument for the Panthers, I'm going all in on the Bruins at the moment. I think they have the ability to surprise a lot of people and take this series and advance to the Eastern Conference Final. Don't forget that President's Trophy +1 bump that we've talked about in the past. There's been a ton of teams lately that have won the President's Trophy, gone out in the first round that year, and then come back and gone on to advance far in the playoffs. Just look at the Panthers last season, the Washington Capitals before them, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Colorado Avalanche. It's a thing, and the Bruins have that swagger right now with lessened expectations, and I expect them to come out strong tonight. And Pavel Zacha, let's hit the back of the net, eh? All right, that's it for today's episode, my friends. Thank you so much for taking some time to listen. I appreciate all the support, and please do subscribe to the podcast if you have not already. We'll be back tomorrow to break down whatever happens here in Game 2 and bring you all the latest on the Boston Bruins, because this is Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day.